The story of the picnic is a tale of food, culture, leisure, and human connection. At first glance, the idea of eating outdoors might seem like something natural and timeless. After all, people have been eating in open spaces for as long as there have been human beings. But the concept of the picnic, as a structured social activity, has its own history and evolution that reflects the broader history of society, culture, and leisure. The roots of the picnic can be traced back to ancient civilizations. In prehistoric times, hunter-gatherers ate their meals wherever they could find food. Campsites, forest clearings, and riverbanks all served as natural dining spaces. This was not a picnic in the sense of choice or leisure. It was a matter of survival. But even then, the simple act of gathering together around food created bonds within groups. The earliest seeds of the picnic are present in the communal sharing of meals. In ancient Egypt, feasts often took place outdoors near temples or along the Nile River. Archaeological evidence shows scenes of food, drink, and music depicted on tomb walls, suggesting that outdoor communal eating was tied not only to survival, but also to ritual and pleasure. In Greece, people often dined at outdoor banquets during festivals. And in Rome, the tradition of the convivium often extended into gardens and public spaces. Roman elite citizens loved to celebrate with feasts that sometimes overflowed into outdoor courtyards or countryside villas. These were not exactly picnics, but they represented a social enjoyment of food outside the formal indoor dining hall. The Middle Ages brought new contexts. In Europe, nobles and royalty often organized elaborate outdoor banquets. Hunting parties were especially famous for combining outdoor sport with outdoor feasting. Aristocrats would ride through forests chasing deer or boar, and once the hunt was complete, large feasts were held in clearings or meadows. These were often richly decorated events, with servants bringing roasted meats, bread, fruits, and wine to long outdoor tables. The setting was rustic, but the food and ceremony were luxurious. The idea of eating outdoors was already associated with pleasure and status. By the Renaissance, outdoor eating took on a more refined character. The Italian courts often hosted banquets in gardens, surrounded by fountains and sculptures. French nobility also embraced al fresco dining. The word pique-nique itself emerged in France around the late 17th century. The term originally referred to a gathering where each guest contributed a share of food or drink. It wasn't strictly tied to being outdoors, yet it was more about the communal aspect of sharing a meal, often informally. But over time, the word began to be associated with eating in open spaces, particularly as gardens and parks became central to leisure culture. The 18th century saw the transformation of the picnic into a fashionable activity. In England, after the Restoration, French culture heavily influenced English aristocracy. The word picnic was borrowed into English and began to carry the meaning of an outdoor social event. Aristocrats would gather in gardens or countryside estates, bringing along elaborate spreads of food, wine, and entertainment. The picnic became a symbol of sophistication, blending the pleasures of nature, cuisine, and social conversation. One important shift came with the rise of public parks in Europe during the 18th and 19th centuries. As cities grew, open green spaces became valuable leisure areas. In France, after the French Revolution, aristocratic hunting grounds and private gardens were open to the public. Suddenly, ordinary citizens could also enjoy the pleasures of dining outdoors. The picnic became democratized, no longer reserved only for nobles. Families and groups of friends would bring baskets of bread, cheese, fruits, and wine to these new public spaces. The Victorian era elevated the picnic to new heights of popularity. In Britain, the picnic became a common activity among the middle class. Guidebooks and etiquette manuals from the 19th century described how to plan the perfect picnic, what foods to bring, and even what clothing to wear. Picnics were often highly organized, with attention to detail. Foods such as cold meats, Pies, cakes, and fruit were staples. The invention of new transport technologies, such as railways, allowed people to travel to the countryside for leisure, expanding picnic culture beyond city parks. Art and literature of the 19th century reflect the prominence of picnics. Painters such as Claude Monet, Edouard Manet, and other impressionists often depicted outdoor dining scenes, capturing the relaxed atmosphere of picnics along rivers and meadows. Novels and poetry of the time also mentioned picnics as ideal settings for romance, socialization, and escape from urban life. The picnic was not just about eating, it was about freedom, relaxation, and enjoyment of nature. In the United States, the picnic also took on cultural significance. Early settlers and colonists often ate outdoors out of necessity. But by the 19th century, the picnic became a symbol of community and democracy. Church groups, political organizations, and schools organized picnics as social events. These gatherings often involved not just food, but also games, music, and speeches. The American picnic often had a more communal and public character than the aristocratic European version. Potluck picnics, where everyone brought a dish to share, became particularly popular. The 20th century brought technological innovations that changed the picnic. The rise of the automobile allowed families to drive to countryside locations for weekend picnics. Folding chairs, portable stoves, and coolers became part of the picnic tradition. The picnic basket itself became an iconic symbol, often packed with sandwiches, fruits, salads, and drinks. Advertising campaigns and magazines promoted the picnic as an ideal leisure activity for modern families. The cultural image of the picnic also appeared in cinema and popular culture. In many countries, national holidays and festivals became associated with mass picnics. For example, in Japan, the tradition of hanami picnicking under cherry blossoms became internationally famous as a symbol of seasonal celebration. In South Korea, similar gatherings took place during spring and autumn. In Latin America, picnics were tied to community events and national celebrations. The symbolism of the picnic also carried political meaning at times. In the United States during the Civil Rights Movement, in Europe during the late Cold War, a famous event known as the Pan-European Picnic in 1989 became symbolic of freedom. This picnic played a small but memorable role in the collapse of the Iron Curtain. By the late 20th century, the picnic became a global leisure activity. From city parks in Europe and North America, to beaches in Australia, to mountain valleys in South America, the essential spirit remained the same: sharing food together in the open air. The 21st century has brought new variations of the picnic. Some are simple and casual friends, gathering with sandwiches and drinks in a park. Others are more elaborate, featuring gourmet foods, champagne, and even designer picnic sets. Eco-friendly picnics have become popular. During the COVID-19 pandemic, picnics gained renewed importance as safe ways for people to meet outdoors. Social media platforms like Instagram and Pinterest helped popularize aesthetic picnic setups, complete with blankets, baskets, and artistic food arrangements. In some cultures, it is strongly tied to tradition. For example, Japan's hanami or France's Bastille Day gatherings. In others, it is more casual, part of family weekends or summer holidays. Across the world, the picnic symbolizes freedom, relaxation, togetherness, and joy. It is both ancient and modern, rooted in survival and ritual. The history of the picnic shows how something as simple as eating outdoors can carry deep cultural meanings. From royal hunting feasts to revolutionary gatherings, from impressionist paintings to Instagram reels, the picnic has adapted to each age while retaining its core essence: the joy of food, nature, and human company. Whether it is bread and cheese under a tree, barbecue at a park, or a carefully styled outdoor banquet, the picnic reflects humanity's enduring love for nature, community, and the shared meal. Its story is one of continuity and change, simplicity and sophistication, survival and celebration.